Hey, glad to have you back. Today we're talking about one of the most controversial issues in the United States, the Second Amendment. We'll look at where this right originally came from, why it was so important back then, and why it is so fiercely debated today. Just recently, the United States was shaken by shocking news. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot dead on September 10th, 2025, while giving a public speech at Utah Valley University. The incident was widely seen as a political assassination. The suspected shooter, a 22-year-old man named Tyler Robinson, was later arrested. This tragedy once again cast a harsh light on the tension between free speech, violence, and gun rights in America. When we talk about the Second Amendment, many people immediately think of such tragic examples and ask themselves, how could a law written more than 200 years ago still be so relevant, yet at the same time so dangerous today? The Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads in its original form: a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. To understand why this sentence was included in the Constitution, we need to go back to the late 18th century. The United States had just emerged from the Revolutionary War against Britain. The young nation was shaped by a deep desire for liberty, self-determination, and above all a distrust of centralized power. Many citizens feared that a new government could become just as tyrannical as the British Crown had been. A central concern at that time was, if the government abused its power, how could the people resist? The founding fathers saw an armed citizenry as a safeguard against tyranny. Without a large standing army, which was considered expensive, dangerous, and difficult to control, citizen militias were meant to serve as a counterbalance. That is why the idea of free men owning weapons was written into the Bill of Rights. For them, it was not only a symbolic matter of freedom, but also a practical question of security and survival. Fast forward to today, the world has changed dramatically. There are professional armies, police forces, and security agencies, and weapons that are vastly more powerful than the muskets of the 18th century. This creates a direct clash between the historical origins of the Second Amendment and modern reality. On one side stand those who defend gun ownership as an inalienable freedom. They argue that it is part of the American identity that citizens must be able to protect themselves, especially in rural areas, and that an armed population serves as a check against government overreach. Organizations like the NRA lobby heavily to protect the Second Amendment. On the other side are strong counter-arguments. Tens of thousands of people die each year in the US from gun violence, whether through crime, accidents, or suicide. Mass shootings in schools and public spaces horrify the country again and again. Critics ask, do we really need a right from the 18th century, when militias and muskets were the norm? Or does this very amendment block effective gun reforms that could save lives? Another layer of complexity lies in how the courts interpret the amendment. For much of history, it was understood mainly in connection with militias. But in recent decades, Supreme Court decisions have leaned toward interpreting it as an individual right. This makes it very difficult for lawmakers to pass stricter gun control without running into constitutional challenges. Supporters of the amendment warn that stricter gun laws mainly affect law-abiding citizens, while criminals won't follow the rules anyway. They also point to cases where legal gun owners have stopped crimes, arguing that the Second Amendment protects more lives than it endangers. Opponents counter that countries like Canada, Australia, or Germany have far stricter gun laws and far less gun violence. To them, these examples prove that fewer guns in private hands mean fewer deaths. What remains clear is that the Second Amendment is deeply rooted in American culture, history, and legal thinking. It was born from a need for protection and self-determination in a very different time. But in today's world of mass shootings, long-range rifles, and political extremism, The question is whether this amendment is still appropriate or whether it does more harm than good. And now, be honest. What do you think? Is the Second Amendment truly a sacred right that should never be touched? Or has it become a dangerous relic that costs countless lives every single year? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to see where you stand. Thanks for being here today. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. See you next time.